Good morning, my friends. Ow. Sorry. Wow. This one has decided to say hi again this morning with his claws into my side. We don't like that, do we? All right, that's fine. We'll give him some attention and we'll get going here. We're going to be doing Proverbs 11 this morning in the New International Version. And so let's get started with a little bit of prayer and then we'll jump right in. Father God, thank you so much for another day. Thank you for all the blessings of wisdom that you give us. And we hope that today that you will, we don't just hope, we know that you are going to bless us with what we read today. And so we do ask that you grant us the understanding that we need to apply this to our lives, and that the things that need to jump out at us will jump out at us today. And we pray this in your son's name. Amen. All right. What do you think, buddy? Ready? We ready to go? I think. Oh my goodness. Oh boy. The timing is always just hilarious to me. Like when he chooses to want attention and not attention, and how he goes about wanting that attention is usually not ideal. Oh, buddy, claws to the side. No fun. Proverbs 11 in the New International Version. The Lord detests dishonest scales, but accurate weights find favor with him. When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful are destroyed by their duplicity. You can't see Thor pushing the microphone away. All right, buddy. Sorry, you're becoming too much of a distraction. Okay, apologize for that. Let's get back into focus here. Verse 3. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful are destroyed by their duplicity. Wealth is worthless in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. Right there. The righteousness of the blameless makes their path straight, but the wicked are brought down by their own wickedness. The righteousness of the upright delivers them, but the unfaithful are trapped by evil desires. Hopes placed in mortals die with them. All the promise of their power comes to nothing. When the wicked die, their hope perishes. All they expected from their power comes to nothing. Interesting way to say that. Very cool. Verse 8. The righteous person is rescued from trouble, and it falls on the wicked instead. With their mouths, the godless destroy their neighbors, but through knowledge, the righteous escape. When the righteous prosper, the city rejoices. When the wicked perish, there are shouts of joy. That is always a rough one, I think. Yeah. Verse 11, through the blessing of the upright, a city is exalted, but by the mouth of the wicked, it is destroyed. A city. It's very interesting. Whoever derides their neighbor has no sense, but the one who has understanding holds their tongue. A gossip betrays confidence, but a trustworthy person keeps a secret. For lack of guidance, a nation falls, but victory is won through many advisors. Yeah, again, that's just one of those keys that, yeah, that I find very obvious. I know we tend to look at our very limited scope, but when you look at more of a global scale at the way things have been going with other nations, yeah, you see that. In fact, I've been seeing that Canada has been going through some interesting times. Interesting, is one way to say it, I suppose. They now have rents that are, upward in the, now. Granted, a Canadian dollar is about, it is more of a an amount than our dollar. It is inflated a bit more, and so what you can buy for a dollar in U.S. dollars is less than you can buy from in Canada with a dollar. That's how inflation works, folks. But I was seeing a special on rents and housing costs in places like Toronto, or Toronto for the locals, and they've gotten to the point where it's almost impossible. If you're not established already, you'd have to be making the equivalent of about, I think they said around 300 to 400,000 a year just to be able to get like a one bedroom apartment. It has gotten that bad apparently, for those that are not already established with a house they own or an apartment they own in Toronto. So yeah, it's getting bad up there in a lot of ways. But if you look at the causes of it, it has to do with a lot of just bad advisors that were involved in this, and so it's going to take them some time to recover from the decisions that were made to put them in that position. And so it's not like that's the only story. There are many of when there are bad advisors around leaders that causes turmoil. And there are examples of even worse than that. There are some that uh, advise their leaders to do things that are really bad, like, literally attacking other nations and things like that. There are things happening out there that, I don't think the leader is acting alone. I don't think they're just the person that's saying, "Hey, let's launch these missiles," or whatever, whatever that looks like. In their case, a lot of it is they're surrounded by people that are spurring them on, or that are giving them bad advice, or maybe bad intelligence, even in some cases. And so it is really crucial for a nation to have good advisors, and it's really good for us to have good advisors. So, yeah, yeah. Let's move on from that depressingness. Although, yeah, I don't think it gets better from here. um, Verse 15: Whoever puts up security for a stranger will surely suffer, but whoever refuses to shake hands and pledge is safe. Yikes. A kind hearted woman gains honor, but ruthless men gain only wealth. Gain only wealth. I like that. Which would you rather truly have? Honor or wealth? And only wealth. If money was the only thing you were ever going to get out of being ruthless, you know, it seems worth it to them at the time, but it's not. And y'all, this was thousands of years ago this was written, so it's not like this is a new thing. People seem to think that greed is a new thing on the planet, or that being ruthless to get what you want is a new thing on this planet. Trust me, it is not. It has been here, but there's always been a way around it. So there you go. Those who are kind benefit themselves, but the cruel bring ruin on themselves. We have a saying about that, don't we? We say it's about not about punishment, it's about a result of choices. They bring ruin on themselves. It's your choices, not punishment. A wicked, as in punishment's not necessary. Verse 18, a wicked person earns deceptive wages, but the one who sows righteousness reaps a sure reward. Truly the righteous attain life, but whoever pursues evil finds death. I'm struggling today. Struggling. The Lord detests those whose hearts are perverse, but he delights in those whose ways are blameless. Be sure of this: the wicked will not go unpunished, but those who are righteous will go free. Like a gold ring in a pig's snout is a beautiful woman who shows no discretion. If you have ever been around pigs, if you've ever been around pigs, you know what this would look like. Like having a gold ring in a pig's snout would be ridiculous. It would be shiny for about 3 seconds. Yeah. That's how silly it is to think of a beautiful woman with no discretion. The desire of the righteous ends only in good, but the hope of the wicked only in wrath. One person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. I like that one. People curse the one who hoards grain, but they pray God's blessing on the one who is willing to sell. I've highlighted this before. I know. Talk about that in a minute. I think I'll finish this out. Whoever seeks good finds favor, but the evil, but evil comes to the one who searches for it. Those who trust in their riches will fall, but the righteous will thrive like a green leaf. Whoever brings ruin on their family will inherit only wind, and the fool will be servant to the wise. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and the one who is wise saves lives. If the righteous receive their due on earth, how much more the ungodly and the sinner? Hmm. So not exactly the most, you know, cheerful of proverbs today, for sure. But but nonetheless, I think there's a couple of things here that we can really highlight, for sure. There's a lot about um, just honestly, just a lot about um, how money and morality play together, and that sort of thing, and how that works. Um, but honestly, I think the big lesson that I'm taking away out of this, the intentionality, I guess you could say, is much about um, not being worried about current um, life, if that makes sense. There's a lot of kind of investment in the future talked about here. And when it comes to that, it's that we tend to look in terms of like results we want to see right away. Especially these days, we are in a society where any information we want is at our fingertips. Literally, there's just an abundance of that, more than we can process, more than we can even hope to process. It's one of the reasons why I think personally that AI and what we're seeing with that is now coming into play, because we just don't have the capability to process the information we have. We just cannot do it. And so we're starting to basically hire that out, is a big way to say this. Now, whether that's good or bad, I don't know yet. There's a lot of good that's going on, a lot of bad that's going on. So who's going to win out? I don't know. I don't think there's a value judgment we can assign to it. All I can say is that we need to be people that are investing in the world around us for the future. If we are the kind of people that are like verse 16 here is, if we're just focused on the moment, well, that's being ruthless, isn't it? If we're just focused on the moment and focused on getting what we can out of it and expecting returns and that sort of thing, that's not necessarily the best way to do this. And I know a lot of people are in the kind of businesses where you expect that, and I myself am in a weird period of investing in some ways, whether it be money or time, mostly time and efforts and things like that, and believing that there will be a good result, and having to deal with the trust in that. Um, and trust me, that's something this last week has been a challenge for me. But when I when I see these are encouraging actually to me, because it's reminding me that it's not about um, the temporary moment. It's about the future, and so there are things that we do that are for those things down the road. Um, Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Refreshed. In other words, and I'll just say this literally, like the things that I'm doing today, the 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 effort that it takes to do what I'm doing right now. I'm not getting paid for this. There's no path to me getting paid for this. It's not a thing, right? Um, but it does help that I'm refreshed by others because I'm refreshing them. Because I'm helping them with something, or what I'm doing this, then there are those that are blessing me back with it. So it is really good for that. And so there's that sort of thing. But there's also a notion here of not holding on to what you got. You know, you gotta, you know, sorry. It's there's a call it a parable or a song that was called the Magic Penny. It's just like, what? How did that go? It's just like a magic penny. Hold it tight, and you won't have any. Uh, how did that go? Yeah, I need to look that up. But it's that kind of thing of if you like the verse 26 here, if people curse the one who hoards grain, but they pray God's blessing on the one who's willing to sell. And what that tells me is two things. One, it's the person willing to have the faith to sell off what they've stored, or what they have, or what they've earned, what they have developed. They're willing to sell that, and that is a blessed activity. Now, there's also there's no like notion of price or anything like that. You'd think that if this person is being uh, blessed and they're listening to everything else that's on here, that it would be a fair price that they're selling for. But it's catch that they pray God's blessing on the one who's willing to sell. In other words, if you are in a period of you're operating out of a sense of worry or even fear, and you're I'm just going to hold on to what I've got, and I'm just going to see what happens. Um, that may not be the appropriate thing right now. That may not be right. There may be things that you need to help others with their understanding. There may be things that you need to uh, invest in. There may be things that you need to literally do as a business, for example. There may be even non-monetary things that you need to do that are a blessing to others. There might be like skills or things to develop or talents that you've been given, like you were talking about yesterday, about things that you have been granted, but you need to invest in those and bring those out. And in a lot of cases, I feel a good lot of those, the talents that God gives you are associated with adding value. And that was part of the parallel of talents we talked about yesterday. It's not just a magic, oh, I just put in two and I got four just magically. No, there was effort and intelligence involved, and there was developing of talents. That's why this whole concept fascinates me so much. But we've got to have that notion of that, the people pray a blessing on those willing to sell. It's a thing we need to be um, willing to put forward into the world. That's what our instructions were here. So, yeah. Well, I hope this was useful to you. Unfortunately, I went on and on a bit and started late, and all these kind of combinations to say that I do not have time today to do a cross reference with you. Aw. And we'll have to invite Thor in earlier to not be a distraction and not cause me to be delayed. We'll have the Proverbs with Thor version of this something. But thank you so much for being here with me, and I will see you again tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. And until then, do be blessed by the best, and then be a blessing to all the rest around you. We will see you tomorrow.